The old leather-bound deed felt heavy in my hands as I sat in my grandfather's study, still trying to process the news. "He left you the mountain property, Kate," the lawyer had said, his voice gentle but firm. "All 500 acres of it, including the cabin. I'm Katherine Chen, and until 3 weeks ago, I was just a geological survey specialist living a quiet life with my husband Michael in suburban Colorado. Now I was the owner of what my grandfather had always called his piece of heaven, a vast stretch of mountainous land that had been in our family for generations. It's worth nothing," my mother-in-law Barbara's voice cut through the evening air at the Morgan family dinner. "Just rocks and trees and that run-down cabin." She exchanged knowing looks with my father-in-law, Robert, who nodded sagely. I should have expected this reaction. The Morgans were real estate developers, owners of Morgan Properties LLC, one of Denver's fastest-growing development companies. They'd been trying to buy my grandfather's land for years, but he'd always refused to sell. "Kate, dear," Barbara continued, setting down her wine glass with practiced precision, "you should let us take it off your hands. We'll give you, say, $10,000. That's generous for undeveloped mountain land with no road access." My husband Michael shifted uncomfortably beside me. He worked for his parents' company, trapped between loyalty to them and to me. "Mom, maybe we should." $10,000 is more than fair," Robert interrupted. "The property taxes alone will eat her alive. No utilities, no proper access road, just that old dirt track. It's a liability, not an asset." I took a slow sip of my water, remembering the countless summers I'd spent at that cabin with my grandfather. He'd been a geologist too, though he'd never worked in the field professionally. "Too many corporate interests," he'd always said. "Too many people who see the earth as something to exploit rather than understand." "Actually," I said carefully, "I think I'll hold on to it for now. Grandfather's cabin holds a lot of memories." Barbara's perfectly maintained smile tightened. "Sentimentality is expensive, dear. You really should let professionals handle this. The zoning alone is residential and agricultural," I finished for her. I checked. "But it could be rezoned." Robert leaned forward eagerly. "For the right project, the county might." I said no, thank you. My voice was quiet but firm. The tension around the dinner table could have been cut with a knife. Barbara's smile vanished entirely. "Well," she said coldly, "don't come crying to us when you're drowning in property taxes and maintenance costs." Later that night, as Michael and I drove home, he tried to play peacemaker. "They mean well, Kate. They just don't want to see you stuck with a worthless property." I stared out the window at the distant mountains, silhouetted against the sunset. "It's not worthless to me, Michael, and I wish you'd stand up to them sometimes." He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "They're my parents, and they know real estate. Maybe get right about." "Stop the car." "What?" "Stop the car, Michael. I want to show you something." He pulled over to the side of the road, and I dug through my bag until I found what I was looking for. My grandfather's old journal. Under the dome light, I opened it to a page marked with a faded photograph. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a series of hand-drawn geological maps. Grandfather wasn't just hiking up there all those years, he was studying the land, mapping it. Michael squinted at the detailed drawings. "What am I looking at?" "Geological survey maps, very precise ones. Grandfather may not have worked as a professional geologist, but he knew what he was doing." I traced the contour lines with my finger. "These formations, these mineral deposits, there's something up there, Michael. Something valuable." "If there was anything valuable, someone would have found it by now," he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. "Not necessarily. The land's been in my family for 3 generations. Nobody's been allowed to survey it properly." I closed the journal carefully. "And your parents know that. Why else would they be so eager to buy worthless land?" The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove up to the cabin. The dirt track was rough, but my SUV handled it well. As I approached the familiar clearing, the old cabin came into view, its weathered logs still solid despite years of mountain winters. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered. The stone fireplace, the hand-built furniture, the walls lined with geological specimens and maps. But I wasn't here for nostalgia. I went straight to my grandfather's study. It took hours of searching through his papers, but I finally found what I was looking for: a sealed envelope marked for Katie when the time comes. Inside was a USB drive and a letter. "My dearest Katie," it began. If you're reading this, then you've inherited the mountain property and the Morgans are probably already circling like vultures. They've been trying to buy this land for 20 years, ever since their initial geological survey hinted at what lies beneath, but they never found the main deposit. I did. My hands trembled as I read on. Grandfather had documented everything. Mineral deposits, core samples, test results. He'd known exactly what he had, but had kept it quiet, waiting for the right moment, waiting for me. The real treasure isn't in the minerals, Katie, the letter concluded. It's in the knowledge of when to hold your cards and when to play them. The Morgans are counting on you feeling overwhelmed, isolated. Don't let them pressure you. The land has more value than they know, and more importantly, it has more value than what lies beneath it. Trust your instincts and remember what I taught you about reading the earth's secrets. I sat back in my grandfather's old chair, mind racing. First thing tomorrow, I would contact an independent geological survey company. But not just any company, I had someone specific in mind. My phone buzzed. Another text from Barbara. Dear, we've drawn up the paperwork. $15,000 now, just to make things easy for you. Let's get this settled quickly. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked out onto the cabin's porch and watched the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple. Somewhere up there, beneath those rugged slopes, lay the truth my grandfather had protected for decades. But as I stood there, another truth began to form in my mind. This wasn't just about minerals or money. This was about legacy, about standing up to people who thought they could bully and manipulate others into submission. My grandfather hadn't just left me land, he'd left me a chance to prove myself. I took out my phone and made a call. Dr. Sarah Chen. This is Katherine Chen, George Chen's granddaughter. I need your help with a geological survey. Yes, it's about the mountain property, and we need to keep this completely confidential. As I drove back down the mountain that evening, I caught sight of a Morgan Properties LLC survey vehicle heading up another access road. They were already moving, trying to find what my grandfather had discovered, but they were looking in the wrong place, following their 20-year-old data. I smiled, thinking of the detailed maps in grandfather's journal. Sometimes the best advantage isn't just knowing what you have. It's knowing that others don't know what you have. The real work was about to begin, and this time, I wasn't going to be the one feeling overwhelmed and isolated. The Morgans had no idea what they were about to face. The next 3 weeks were a carefully orchestrated dance of secrecy and precision. Dr. Sarah Chen, my grandfather's former colleague and one of Colorado's most respected geological surveyors, worked with her team and carefully planned shifts to avoid detection. Using my grandfather's maps as a guide, they focused on areas the Morgans had never thought to explore. Your grandfather was brilliant, Kate, Sarah said one evening, spreading out core sample results across the cabin's old oak table. He didn't just find the rare earth deposits, he found the mother lode. And he documented everything perfectly. The numbers were staggering. The land contained one of the largest deposits of rare earth elements in North America, crucial for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles. But that wasn't all. The water rights alone are worth millions, Sarah explained. The underground aquifer system is extensive and pristine. In Colorado, that's more valuable than gold. I nodded, remembering how the Morgans' latest development projects had struggled with water access issues. Now I understood their real interest in my worthless mountain land. My phone buzzed again. Barbara for the third time that day. The offers had been increasing, $25,000, then $50,000, finally $100,000. Just trying to help you avoid a burden, dear, her last message read. I kept my response simple, still not interested in selling. But thank you for your concern. That evening, Michael came home looking troubled. Kate, my parents are getting frustrated. Dad's talking about having the property assessed for fair market value, maybe forcing a sale through other means. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing Sarah's preliminary reports. What other means? He shifted uncomfortably. They've been researching your grandfather's original purchase, looking for irregularities. Dad has some friends in the county records office. Are you warning me or threatening me? The question hung in the air between us. Finally, Michael sat down heavily. I don't know anymore. They're my parents, but the way they're acting, it's not right. No, I agreed quietly, it's not. And you're going to have to decide where you stand, Michael. Because things are about to change. The next morning, I put the final phase of my plan into motion. First, I filed all of Sarah's surveys and reports with the State Geological Office. Then, I contacted 3 major mining companies known for their environmental responsibility and sustainable practices. The responses were immediate and enthusiastic. By Friday, the Morgans had heard rumors. Barbara and Robert showed up at our house unannounced, all pretense of family concern gone. "What have you done?" Barbara demanded, her voice sharp. "We have surveyors reporting unusual activity on the property. If you've allowed unauthorized surveys." "Nothing unauthorized about them," I interrupted calmly. "It's my land, remember? That worthless mountain property you were so concerned about." Robert stepped forward, his face red. "Now see here, young lady. We made you a more than generous offer." "You tried to cheat me," I corrected him. "You knew about the mineral deposits 20 years ago. Not the main deposit, you never found that, but enough to know the land's potential. That's why you've been trying to buy it all these years." "That's ridiculous," Barbara sputtered, but her face had gone pale. "Is it? Should we discuss the water rights you've been struggling to secure for your new developments? The ones that just happened to originate on my property?" Michael, who had been silent until now, turned to his parents. "Is this true? You knew the land was valuable." "Of course they knew," I said, opening my laptop to display the historical survey data I found in county records. "They've been trying to exploit my grandfather for years. When that failed, they thought they could pressure me into selling before I discovered the truth." "We were trying to help you," Barbara insisted, but her voice had lost its edge. "That land needs proper development, professional management, and it's going to get it," I cut in. "Just not from you." I handed them each a copy of the press release scheduled for Monday morning. Their faces went from red to white as they read the headlines: "Major rare earth deposit discovered in Colorado," and "Sustainable mining project to create thousands of local jobs." "You're going to regret this," Robert growled. "We have connections." "So do I replied. "Would you like to see the list of environmental law firms ready to investigate any interference with my property rights? Or should we discuss the ethics complaints I'm prepared to file about your attempts to manipulate county records?" They left shortly after, Barbara's threats fading into shocked silence as the reality of their situation sank in. Michael stayed. "I had no idea," he said quietly, "about any of it." "I know." I took his hand. "That's why you're still here while they're leaving. You have a choice to make, Michael. Not between them and me, but between right and wrong." He squeezed my hand. "I think I already made it." The next few months transformed everything. The Sustainable Mining Project became a model for environmentally responsible resource extraction. The water rights were leased to the county with strict conservation provisions, ensuring both profit and protection of the resource. But I kept the cabin and the surrounding 100 acres untouched, just as my grandfather would have wanted. On clear days, I could stand on the porch and watch the carefully planned mining operation in the distance, barely visible thanks to advanced low-impact techniques. 1 year after that first confrontation, I sat in my grandfather's study, now restored to its former glory. The wall of geological specimens had been expanded, now including samples from the very deposits he had discovered decades ago. My phone buzzed, a message from Michael. He had started his own environmental consulting firm, helping other property owners understand and protect their resources. He was finally free from his parents' influence, building something he could be proud of. Barbara and Robert had moved their operations to another state after their reputation in Colorado suffered from leaked documents about their attempted manipulation. They still weren't speaking to us, but somehow that seemed like a fair price for integrity. Sarah Chen had become a partner in our venture, her expertise helping to ensure that the mining operation remained both profitable and environmentally sound. The project had created over 3,000 local jobs, with more coming as we expanded into sustainable technology research. But the real victory wasn't in the money or the success. It was in proving that doing things the right way, respecting the land, being honest, standing up to bullies, could be more profitable than all the manipulative schemes in the world. I picked up my grandfather's old journal, its pages now carefully preserved. "You were right," I whispered. "The real treasure isn't what's in the ground. It's knowing when to stand your ground." The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. just like that evening when I first discovered the truth. From the cabin's porch, I could see the lights of the research facility we'd built beginning to twinkle in the distance. We were doing more than extracting resources. We were creating a future. A future built on the foundation of one old man's wisdom and patience, waiting for the right moment, the right person, to reveal the truth. Not just about what lay beneath the mountain, but about the strength that lies within us when we refuse to be bullied or bought. The mountain had kept its secrets safe until the time was right. And now, those secrets were changing the world, one sustainable innovation at a time. As I watched the last light fade from the peaks, I thought about legacy, not just the physical inheritance of land and minerals, but the deeper legacy of integrity and patience my grandfather had left me. Sometimes the most valuable things we inherit aren't things at all, but the wisdom to know how to use them right. The next morning, I had a meeting with a group of young geologists eager to learn about sustainable resource management. Looking at their bright, determined faces, I saw the future my grandfather had envisioned. One where progress and preservation could work together, where standing up for what's right could change not just one person's life, but an entire industry. The real value, I told them, echoing my grandfather's words, isn't just in what you find. It's in how you use it to make the world better. And up on the mountain in the quiet sanctuary of that old cabin, his legacy lived on, not just in the wealth beneath the ground, but in the wisdom of knowing that true value isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes you have to dig deeper, stand stronger, and wait for the right moment to reveal the truth that was there all along.